I want to get into Kail's podcast. I was listening to this podcast episode today, the Frenemies with Becky podcast. They had somebody from TikTok on who I guess is a fan of Kail's and was there asking them some questions. And so there were some interesting responses that Kail had. So she was talking a bit about the filming, but unfortunately, the person who was asking them questions, I forget who it was, but, this person, I don't think they watched Teen Mom that deeply because a lot of the questions he asked were things that we've already known, right? Either through Kail's books or through the show, right? About like how filming works, like them having to recreate and stage moments that had already happened, like, etc. We didn't get any juicy information about Chris, Elijah, like that sort of thing. But however, Kail did talk about how she well, here's the thing. This person is like, well, there's some rumor for some reason, I don't know why, that says that you treat your kids differently based on whether you like the dad or not, right? And I'm like, that's not some rumor that came out of nowhere. That's something that Kail said out of her own damn mouth. Y'all know that I recap her podcast, especially for my channel members. And that particular podcast shocked me. And so I made a video about it. And I specifically remember this episode. And the example that she mainly used was Lincoln and how Lincoln sometimes like she feels not an animosity towards him, but she does feel herself behave differently with him depending on whether or not she's getting along with Javi, right? And so then she goes on to say that, that might be, or Lincoln is always very perceptive to when she's fighting with Javi and stuff like that, or just things like that. Maybe Chris's kids, I don't remember specifically, but I do 1000% categorically, without a shadow of a doubt, remember that she's the one who said this out of her own mouth on one of her podcasts. You guys can also let me know if you remember it, right? Give me one quick second, actually, because I do have some more notes about this podcast, but it's actually on my phone rather than on my computer. So give me a second. I'm going to go grab that to continue with the recap from this particular podcast, okay? So I am back. I've got my notes and I really want to see you guys' comments in the chat. So let me head on over there because I believe that some of you guys might listen to the podcast as well. And if you don't listen to the podcast, maybe you just remember me telling you about the podcast in this particular episode, right? But I definitely 1000% did a recap on it because I was quite stunned by what it is that she says. And then Becky, one thing I like about Becky is she's always going to kind of hold her to task, right? So about 26 minutes and a half into the podcast, there's a moment where they're talking about whether or not Kail and Becky actually hooked up or whatever, right? And so Becky says, listen, all of these rumors about Kail and I and whether or not we're hooking up, these are things that were intentional. So, why don't I actually go ahead and pull up that clip so that you guys can listen to it for yourselves. But essentially, and this is something that we all knew that Kail likes to do. And this is something that kind of I feel like it doesn't help the bisexual community. And Kail, she says she's bisexual. But one thing about her is that she seems to queerbait a lot, right? For attention. And, there are already so many negative stereotypes about, bisexual women in particular, about it, being more so of a performative thing, not being real, or maybe only being actually interested in women, but romantically interested in men and, kind of the whatever that all of that comes with, right? So take a listen to this. And I want to get you guys' opinions because you have Becky calling Kail out for queer baiting in order to get attention to distract from the affair that she was having with Chris while married to Javi. So go ahead and take a listen.
I think
my whole life is offended.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't people speculate? Did people speculate?
One time.
Yeah, it was planned.
It was not planned.
Oh.
The speculations? Yes, it was.
What are you talking about?
Like people thinking that we were dating.
I did.
Wait,
yeah,
that was planned?
Yeah. We've talked about this before. There was something.
You see how she's playing dumb? That was planned. Girl, it was planned and you're the one who came up with it because you're the public figure in this particular case, right? Again, some people don't like Becky, but one thing I like about her is she's always going to call Kail out. She's always low-key dragging her on this podcast, y'all. I'm telling you.
happening, and you were like, we need to feed into this.
And you were like, we should make out. And I was like, okay. And then we made out.
You said we needed to steer the ship and to avoid people looking at this. So let's get them to look at this.
Listen, I don't remember that part, but I believe you.
Yeah. Why do you think the whole marriage boot camp was about, am I the reason that you and Javi got divorced?
I thought it just naturally went that way.
Oh my God. The answer is no. We've never dated. We've never had a romantic relationship. We've never had like any type of.
We've never suited.
No. That would be funny though.
So there you go, you guys. Becky essentially says that she and Kail were pretending to be dating or to be romantically into each other simply to distract the fact that her marriage was ending and she was, she had Chris waiting in the wings, right? Like they wanted as much speculation about whether or not she's going to have this, lesbian relationship or whatever, because for some reason that's still scandalous to people, and people to ignore that she had a whole, side man. And that she was allegedly pregnant with this man's baby already, right? A mess overall. Ronnie says she's a horrible parent. She even said all these broken homes. Miss Petty Betty would treat her children different. Like, I think it's so just not okay, right? To be treating our kids based off of how you're getting along or not getting along with their fathers. Because one thing about Kail, she's never getting along with all the dads anyway, or with most of the dads. Like maybe she'll get along with one for a little bit, but it's never for long. For now, it's only Elijah. For a bit, it was only Javi. Then it was only Joe. Now, in this podcast episode, she talks about how she and Joe haven't even spoken in God knows how long and whatnot, right? And exactly, Kimmy, they didn't ask to be there. Like, you have to do your best to give them a nice life because you're the one that decided to usher them into this world, right? And so just to hear that was really, really shocking and alarming. Lexi remembers that podcast episode as well, right? So it's crazy to me that she's suddenly acting like this was made up by random people and whatnot, right? Versus owning up to the fact that this is something that she said out of her own damn mouth. Princess says both her and Amber say they're bi, but literally just hook up with girls when they're not dating men. And unfortunately, that is what the image that they portray and whatnot, right? And then when you're going on to create these fake rumors and stuff to make it as salacious as possible, it just also doesn't help at all. So I don't know, y'all. Listen, Two Snap says the LGBT doesn't want you killed. Damn, not Kail getting kicked out of the LGBT. Right. And exactly, Cammy, right? She's really, really there for Aubrey and whatnot. And, by the way, I want to watch an episode of that HD TV show of theirs. I have that channel now. And I want to see how their design is going. Are you guys keeping up with that show? Do they ever spill any kind of like actual personal tea on there? And exactly, Allie, she's panicking. She's like trying to act like so confused. Girl, we know damn well you did that. It's your playbook. You have always, always, always done that. I think she did that with Daddy Dom as well, right? She used her while she was still with Chris. She's, that's her thing though. She uses women for the press and everything. Meanwhile, what's she doing behind the scenes? Becky says Kail is a liar. Both are true. They hooked up and they used it for attention. And I agree. And that's something that like podcast Becky says as well. She's like, listen, one thing about me is I love attention. Okay. I love attention. I love the attention I get from being Kail's friend. And I like that she is at least honest about that, but that just goes to show you that she was feeding into this sort of thing for her own personal attention as well. And exactly, Lexi. Oh my God. A mess. And Terry, I can't stand that either. It's such a disservice to the bisexual community to be doing this sort of thing. It's really, really not okay in my personal opinion. All right. Agreed, Tamara. That's why she's got to be careful with that stuff. I love Technoblade. Hey, boo. I think Kail has read our comments and is just trying to save face. I understand her childhood, but she literally was on a show that promoted birth control. Exactly. She knew what website to go on to get some birth control. She didn't have to do all this, and I get a lot of people, and it's true. Yeah, she had a rough childhood, but listen, at a certain point, it's your own responsibility to make good choices, right? You can't be using that as an excuse when you're like 30 something, raw dogging somebody you don't know and getting pregnant by them. I'm sorry, but I had a rough childhood. I don't know, 25 years ago doesn't account for you doing this sort of thing anymore, in my personal opinion. Tamara says, I like Chelsea's home improvement show mainly because I missed her on Teen Mom. It's good though. Listen, I'm going to try to find it. I do have that channel, but I don't know when it airs or whatnot, but I want to see what they've got going on over there. Right? Oh, does she really on Snapchat? Oh wait, Chelsea posts on Snapchat. Listen, Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out. Thank you guys. Let's see if I have any other notes. Speaking of Chelsea, so she compares herself to Chelsea a little bit, you guys, right? So you know how like Chelsea has had like a stable group of friends like throughout her time on TV and whatnot. Meanwhile, Kail has had a revolving door of friends similar to her revolving door of baby daddies. Well, Kail says, hey, the reason that Chelsea is able to have stable friendships and I'm not is because Chelsea had familial support, right? Her parents were always there for her. She didn't need to go and find validation in friends and other people. Like she already had that rooted in her. And she also said that she needed help, right? And support. And so she would go to friends as support, helping her with her kids and whatnot, right? And so she says that like her being so open and so desperate for support and approval and validation and all that stuff, it opened up the door for users to come in her life. However, I kind of feel like she was using them too, right? Because when you're saying that you're creating friendships because you need help watching your kids and whatnot, like, are you not using people? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that it was a one-way street, right? I think that Water was seeking its own level. She was seeking to use people in her own way, like for community, because she was missing that in her life, and particularly in the form of child care and whatnot. And people were seeking to use her for attention as well. However, I don't think that all of her friendships fell out because of people seeking the limelight. There were very different reasons, right? So, for example, her fallout with Becky, this is something that they discussed in the first episode. It had to do with her and her on and off again toxic relationship with Chris Lopez and Becky being tired of it. Same thing with, what's Pepper Ann's name? What is her name? The girl who like does that weird vagina farting stuff on the podcast. What is her name? Oh, Bonehead. Like her fallout with Bonehead was the same thing, right? It had to do with Chris. So for you to go and say, oh, I can't keep a friend, it's because they all want to be famous. Look at the people who you actually let have a mic and see what they're saying. They had nothing to say about like the fame, the this, the that. You know, granted, they do like the attention. However, their issue with you is mainly the fact that like your life is just chaotic, right? And Becky says this as well. She said that Kail's life in general at that point was just chaotic. Too many people around, too much going on, too much drama all the time. And it was just overwhelming for her as a friend and as an outsider and whatnot. And so Kail also kind of doubles down on what she's been saying for a while, which is that she was never close with Joe's mother, Janet. In fact, she says that she was more so close with Joe's father, Eddie, instead, and blah, blah. She said that Janet essentially was kind of like nice with strings attached. I'm like, girl, why are you always coming for this lady? Like, you know, but listen, maybe there's more to their relationship that meets the eye. Maybe it wasn't properly portrayed on the show, because that's something that Kail really wants for people to know, right? Jade says Kail uses these women for attention and to say I'm bi, and goes back to men to have kids. She needs to grow up. Listen, I actually would love to see an episode of her unpacking this, right? Maybe it's something that could be done in conversation with Becky. Maybe it's something that can be done on a solo episode, but I really would like to see her unpack this and her pattern of behavior involving, you know, women over the past several years. Wouldn't that be interesting? I think so. Shalisa says, did you see her posting all the kids' school pics? It seems like she's cool with Elijah's family. No, I didn't see that. Hang on. Let me go check this out. I think that's great. You know what I've heard also is that, you know, she and Elijah have always been on good terms, even despite the cheating and whatnot. I gotta say, here's the one thing. I actually think, so I'm looking at her post, I don't see it. I think that she and Elijah are able to be on such good terms because she never actually loved that man. You know what I mean? Like if you don't have like a heartbreak and this and that, like, you know, when someone cheats on you, it's because you didn't love that person like that. You know what I mean? And so it makes it easier to get along with them rather than being like so vengeful and stuff. And so, yeah, just saying. Two Snap says Wawa should ban Kail from all locations in America. Listen, be on the lookout for the rocking Mercedes cars in there. She's out there making babies in them parking lots. She said cannot stand Chelsea. Listen, she is annoying. I'll give you that. I'm definitely not gonna lie. I miss her on Teen Mom with all the babies. And thank you guys. Yes, Bonehead Lord. I don't know where she picked that one up from, but ugh. Scraping the barrel there. Terry said, why put pressure on a family when you can do it to your friends? Yuck. Right? I'm like, okay, so you're talking about wanting these people to help you with your kids, but like, they're the users? Okay. Alice says, Janet probably saw what was going down at Wawa. She was just trying to buy some beef jerky and fill up her car. Looked over to the side. Hey, Social Wallflower, nice to see you. Nice to see you, boo. I feel like you're an OG. I think I remember you from like way back when. Nice to see you. Glad you're able to join. Becky says, Kail doesn't like Janet because Kail only likes females that are yes men. Janet was good to her and stuck up for her a lot during their relationship. Kail disrespected their house and Janet was done. And that's what I think it was too. Right, from what I remember watching on the show, Janet was the one who would typically be there to calm down Joe when Joe was being aggressive towards Kail. Like the way that Joe behaved on that show towards Kail, especially when she was poor, was disgusting. Like it was so verbally abusive, in my opinion. Janet is Joe's mom, Delisa. That was really, really uncalled for. And Janet's the one who would stop in and tell him to, to calm down and all that stuff, right? More so than the father. So I do find it to be very, strange that she's got so much hostility towards her in particular. Anyway, just saying. Terry says, listen, if you park by me and my boo at a certain time, that's on you. Oh my God. This reminds me of when I parked next to that lady who pulled up and she was like looking left and right and blowing in her breathalyzer to like get her car started when she came out of the grocery store and whatnot. I didn't know she snuck Jordan in the house. I thought she was just sneaking out to meet him and whatnot. Oh my God. That's even worse than I thought. The fact that there are people that would defend this is crazy. Janet was right. Like one thing about Kail is she is a fertile myrtle. Especially because she is not wrapping anything up. She is not using any kind of contraceptives, right? You don't want that type of liability in your house, running around dating and whatnot. Kail, if you're going to be staying in their house, you had to play by those rules, right? Just to stop dating. How hard is that? You have a freaking newborn baby and you're like a teenager. What are you thinking about dating even for, right? And this is like a mentality that she has never really let go of. You know what I mean? Because now look at her.